Hello, my name is Brent McCune, and I will be moderating the question and answer session this afternoon. On behalf of today's sponsor, the Olathe Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to thank the participants for agreeing to be here today and to promote the Olathe effort, which is focused on educating Chamber members and the business communities about what will be discussed this upcoming session in Topeka. The format for this video session will include a 1-minute opening statement by the candidates, followed by a question and answer period. Candidates will be asked prepared questions on business-related topics, and candidates do not have any prior knowledge of specific questions. They'll also be asked to limit their responses to 2 minutes, and the session will conclude with a 1-minute closing statement. I'd like to introduce now Senator Rob Olson, who is seeking to retain his Senate seat in District Number 23. Now I'd like to ask our candidate for a 1-minute opening statement, and if you would, tell us a little bit more about yourself and what distinguishes you between you and your opponent.
Okay, I'm State Senator Rob Olson, and a little bit of background about me. I was the former representative for the 26th District in Olathe for 6 years, and the past 2 years I've been your state senator in the 23rd. I'm a local businessman. I sit on the board of Bank of the Prairie. I own a real estate business and various other businesses in Olathe. I've lived here for about 11 years, enjoyed the community.
So let's begin with our question and answer session. I'd first like to start off talking about budget situations in Kansas. For the past several years, the legislature has faced difficult budgeting choices, and for now our economic future remains uncertain. If Kansas were to face another significant revenue shortfall, how would you support balancing the budget? And if you could, be specific as you can. For example, if you support prioritizing services, what are your priorities and what would you cut? And if you're proposing to eliminate inefficiencies and waste in state government, how do you expect to find that savings?
I do not support increasing taxes. I've been through these budget situations where we've had large deficits. When Governor Brownback took office, we had a little under $400 in the checking account. Today, with the cuts he's made and the secretaries that he's appointed has shown fiscal restraint and got their budgets under control, we have a little over $500 million surplus. I'd love to work with the governor to reduce taxes, which will grow the economy more and bring even more revenue in. So I don't believe we're going to see these difficulty choices in the next few years with the Governor Brownback. First thing he set out, and the House and the Senate, is not to raise taxes, is to eliminate and make cuts. Some of the cuts he made, we had over 2,000 positions that we were budgeting that were vacant, and it was about $100 million. Some of these jobs were vacant for over 10,000 days. That's one of his first things he cut, and then ask all the agencies to come back and ask for approval for these positions. He's eliminated over 3,500 jobs. We've been growing government in the state. In the 90s, most states were growing private sector jobs. We were actually growing state jobs. And so Governor Brownback has, through nutrition and looked at ways to make government more efficient, combine cabinets and agencies, and we've eliminated a lot of the jobs through nutrition and saved a lot of money. And we're running much leaner and meaner like a business.
Question number 2 deals with education in Kansas. And as you know, quality public education has been a cornerstone in Johnson County and our economic prosperity. What are your views on the current state of K-12 education funding in Kansas? And how should the legislature proceed on this issue? And would you support vouchers in Kansas?
Yes, I support private school vouchers. Last year we put about $40 million in education. And I'm sure we're going to be putting quite a bit more. We've got to see what the needs are. I also support Governor Brownback's effort in putting a panel together to look for efficiencies. Let me give you some examples. We've got school districts that got buffalo grass that have now put sprinkler systems in, which most of the people know you only cut buffalo grass one time a year. Or school districts that buy lawnmowers that have air conditioners. There's plenty of ways that we can save money and be more efficient, and we can save millions of dollars in our school districts, and we need to look for them opportunities and do that. And I support Governor Brownback's effort. Now, the one thing that concerns me most when we get it talking about school finance, we really have two different states here. Johnson County is the boom, but there's a lot of rural districts that like to tax Johnson County and send our money elsewhere, and especially when they try to equalize the LOB. So a lot of times you will see that me and other legislators from Johnson County do not support the equalization of the LOB. And what that means is a portion of the money we raise in our local option budget will go to the rural districts, an equal portion, which we believe is not fair. If they want a swimming pool in Kobe, Kansas or somewhere like that, they should look at raising it locally instead of having us raise our taxes to send money elsewhere. So that's the big complaint. We fight a lot about how we fund the schools. It's not so much how much we fund them, it's who pays the taxes.
Our third question, we'd like to ask you, what are your views on the current state tax policy?
That's pretty simple. My belief is what we did last year. We had the largest tax decrease in the history of the state. It was around $800 million. Everybody that pays taxes got a tax decrease in some way or another. The standard deduction went up. The actual effective tax rate went down by 1%, a little over. And all your S corps, your LLCs, and sole proprietorships all seeing a large tax deduction. That's going to help grow the economy. What a lot of people don't realize is every time you increase taxes by 1%, the next year your revenue goes down by 1%. So if the economy doesn't grow by at least 1%, you've actually decreased the amount of revenue that's coming in. Our governor is put us on a fiscal path to we're gonna have a lot of prosperity. For example, a lot of people don't realize in your deductions and exemptions, we have about $5.4 billion on the books, but we only take in $3.6 billion in state tax revenue. So if we eliminated somewhere between 65 and 70%, we could have a zero tax base. The governor's working towards that. We eliminated some exemptions and deductions last year, which helped us get to about an $800 million tax decrease. We're going to work towards moving more to march to zero. And so I look forward to that. I think we can get our personal income tax to zero, and at the same time, we'll see a lot of economic growth. And we were named one of the top 4 states on tax policies to do business in, and we're going to see a lot of big businesses and small businesses locate to Kansas.
Another important topic in recent legislative sessions has been illegal immigration. How do you believe Kansas should proceed, if at all?
Immigration reform is something that I think it's very important for our state and our country. Right now, we have millions of people coming from Mexico that are illegal or undocumented. I'd want to know who's coming into this country to make sure we're getting the best citizens from Mexico, not some criminal or someone that is wanting to leave Mexico because of their past of criminal activity, drug dealers, murders, or whatever. That's my first complaint. The other complaint is I want to make sure they're paying all the taxes and everything properly, so our state and our country is not subsidizing people that are illegal. And the third thing is I think you get yourself in a position where they're being taken advantage of because they're illegal status. So I've heard of situations where you hear these roofers or whatever. Well, this guy won't pay me, and he knows I can't take him to court or anything. So you don't have them situations where they're being taken advantage of either. I think it's best for the system that if we do everything legally. At the same time, there's about 12,500 Americans is all that Mexico allows to come into Mexico and live there. So I believe we should, not discriminate or anything against anybody, but we need to know who's coming to America. I think it's in our best interests.
And now our final question. Recently, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the federal health care reform law that requires states to either implement their own state exchange for selling health insurance or be required to use the federal exchange. Do you support the passage of a state exchange in Kansas?
Well, I mean, this is pretty controversial, and that's something we're going to be getting into this year. We've talked a little bit about it in committee. I don't support Obamacare. It's already creating about $3,000 more that it'll cost for a family to have health care. There's a lot of insurities. I don't support the death panel they have in place. And I just don't believe government can do it as well as the private sector. I mean, you look at revenue. I mean, the minute we had a chance to start taxing and we start creating all these new taxes and all these new fees, I think that's going to be the same thing with Obamacare. I think, it's going to start out with maybe some of the right intentions with it and some wrong ones. But it'll be heavily slanted in the next few years, and that death penalty will be enforced. I think the debate's still out on if it'll be a state or federal exchange. I just kind of want to see how this session goes before I commit to what we want, because I believe, of course, if we're going to have it, I'd want control at the state, but I don't support it, and I supported Mary Pritchard Cook's amendment last year on Obamacare to join with the other states, and so I don't support it, and I'm going to be cautious on how I answer that question. So
that concludes our question and answer session. I'd now like to ask the candidate, if they would, to take 1 minute as a closing statement.
I think this next session is going to be a very important, probably historic session. You hear that every election, but it probably really will be. We're going to work with the governor to try to get our taxes to zero. We're probably going to work on a lot of important legislation that will create a lot of jobs. Of course, your taxes, your budget all tie in. And at the same time, we're going to keep working on downsizing the government and make it more efficient. Also, we're going to keep working. The governor is now will be starting his third year, and we'll be working with him to get all the agencies under his control, the different boards. It takes about 3 years to get all the appointments, and that'll hopefully start to reduce mandates and regulations that will allow businesses to prosper and hire more people. But I think we've created a lot of jobs. We've seen a lot of them come across the line. So thank you.